Today we are going to challenge a very common assumption about attraction.
That's right. Usually when a topic like cross-dressing comes up, the conversation, it almost always centers on men.
Right. It's about the crossdresser's own journey or the male gaze, that kind of thing.
But we're flipping the script.
Yeah.
We're diving into something that's surprisingly common, but rarely talked about. The genuine attraction many women, and yes, straight women, feel for men who cross-dress.
And it's so rarely discussed, which is a real shame because it misses so much about human connection.
It does. Many women hesitate to even talk about this. They worry about the cultural narratives,
That they'll be labeled as queer or bi, or even worse, that they're just fetishizing their partner.
Our mission today is to just cut through all that noise. We want to get past the judgment and the fear to uncover what's really going on.
The deep, emotional, psychological, and, well, sensual dynamics driving this attraction.
And what we found in the sources is that this isn't strange. It's not marginal. It's actually rooted in some very universal, very modern human desires.
The core finding is pretty simple, actually. This attraction is a reflection of deeper shifts in what people want from a relationship. Women are looking for partners with emotional complexity and authenticity.
So let's unpack that. The first thing so many women point to is this incredible allure of duality.
The balance of masculine and feminine energies.
Exactly. I mean, think about the pressure cooker of traditional masculinity, especially in Western cultures. Men are just constantly pushed to suppress any vulnerability.
Any softness, any emotional depth that doesn't fit into this very narrow box.
Right. But a man who cross-dresses, just by the act of doing it, he's signaling something.
He's signaling, what, a kind of psychological flexibility.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
He shows he can integrate these seemingly opposing energies. And for women seeking depth, that's a huge, immediate signal of something refreshing, something rare.
And what really struck me in the source material is how women consistently push back on the idea that they want a less masculine partner.
Oh, absolutely. They are not looking for less of a man. They are looking for more dimensions.
Or the whole person.
Yes. You hear things like, it's the combination, the duality that I love. Or something like, his feminine side doesn't cancel his masculinity. It deepens it. He's just more interesting.
So they're really describing a desire for a partner who is whole, who can access the full range of human experience, which, traditional masculinity often forbids.
And that access to the full range leads directly to the next point, which is emotional intelligence.
Okay, so how does that connect?
Well, think about the journey a man has to go on to embrace cross-dressing. He's had to confront this massive internal conflict, shame, fear of judgment.
That sounds like a ton of psychological work, whether he's in therapy or not.
It is. He's had to develop a level of self-reflection that a lot of men, frankly, spend their entire lives avoiding. And that struggle, it translates directly into empathy.
So that's why these partners are so often described as being more attentive, more emotionally expressive.
And more aware of nuance in the relationship. It's a revelation for some women.
Especially if they've been in relationships with men who just, shut down at the first sign of discomfort.
Exactly. Or men who treat vulnerability like it's a weakness. For them, this kind of emotional availability feels like a whole new world.
But let me just push back on that for a second. Doesn't navigating all that internal conflict, doesn't that sometimes lead to volatility? Or are we maybe romanticizing this a little?
That's a really crucial question. And what the sources suggest is that volatility tends to come from unprocessed conflict. The men women find attractive are the ones who have processed it, who have done the work, and are choosing to share it. And that creates what women call emotional safety.
So it's not a messy, uncontrolled vulnerability. It's chosen, it's acknowledged and shared.
Precisely. A partner who has already faced down society's expectations and chosen to be authentic is just fundamentally less threatening, less distant.
And that emotional safety is more than just stability. It's a huge driver of erotic intimacy.
Well, you can't be intimate with a fortress, right?
No, you can't. You have to feel like your partner is actually present with you, visible to you.
And that shared vulnerability, it acts like a kind of super glue for the relationship. It just makes the attraction to the entire person so much more intense.
Okay, let's shift a little to the bigger picture here, the cultural landscape. Because this isn't happening in a vacuum. It really seems to be driven by a widespread fatigue with rigid masculinity.
Oh, the fatigue is real. You can feel it. It's this weariness with the old script.
What, like a stoicism being mistaken for strength?
That and dominance being mistaken for confidence. or just the general reluctance to communicate, to share any of the emotional labor.
Women are just tired of men who are trapped by the roles they think they have to play.
And a cross-dresser inherently disrupts that. Just by the act of stepping outside that rigid role, they show that gender can be expansive, not confining.
So their identity itself becomes a symbol of honesty, of liberation.
Yes, and those are qualities anyone would admire. But when they're demonstrated through an act that involves real social risk, that admiration gets amplified. Big time.
And that courage seems to translate into a more egalitarian partnership, too.
Absolutely. If you've already rejected one huge, rigid social role, the smaller ones start to look pretty arbitrary.
Like the whole man's job versus woman's job thing in the house.
Exactly. The sources point to a much higher chance of genuine teamwork. These partners are not only more willing to share chores, they're often deeply empathetic about things like body image or the pressures of appearance.
Because they get it. They've literally, maybe even in her heels, walked in her shoes.
Precisely. And that creates this profound sense of trust. I mean, think about the vulnerability it takes for a man to share this part of his life.
It's one of the deepest secrets he could possibly have. He's trusting her with something incredibly precious.
And women see that. They interpret that trust as this extraordinary act of intimacy.
They feel chosen.
They feel chosen. You hear them say things like, "He trusted me more than anyone in the world," or "He let me into a secret part of himself that nobody else gets to see."
And that kind of radical honesty just cements the attraction.
It really does.
So we have to talk about the aesthetic and the sensual appeal. This is the part that so often gets distorted into just being a fetish.
Right. And it's so much more complex than that. The attraction isn't necessarily about a partner who passes perfectly as a woman.
It's about the blend, the allure of feminized masculinity.
It is entirely about that duality. It's the visual combination that women find so erotic. It's not just a dress. It's the familiar masculine form expressed through this sensual feminine medium.
The best of both worlds, in a way.
That's a great way to put it. Women in the sources list really specific visuals they find magnetic.
Like what?
Like the look of smooth legs on a man, the contrast of delicate lace lingerie on a male physique, or the feel of silk or satin on a strong masculine body.
So it's that unique mix of strength and softness that creates this whole new erotic space.
It does. And this leads to something I find really, really heartwarming. The joy of shared femininity.
Okay, explain that.
In traditional relationships, things like fashion, makeup, skincare, they're often things women have to perform alone. It's for the admiration of men, and it can feel like labor.
It's an obligation, a performance.
Yes. But when your partner is a cross-dresser, that entire dynamic shifts.
It becomes collaborative.
It becomes play instead of labor.
That's a huge difference.
It is. Suddenly, shopping is a creative activity you do together. Doing makeup is a shared art project. They're not just willing to share in it, they're enthusiastic.
Which must take so much pressure off the woman. She doesn't feel judged or objectified in that space anymore.
She feels understood, validated. And yes, that shared creativity often translates directly into the bedroom.
I can imagine.
The relationships are described as more open, more adventurous, and much more focused on sensuality and shared pleasure, rather than sticking to some, traditional script.
Because they've already thrown out the rule book in their daily lives.
So they're much more willing to throw it out in their sex lives, too.
That fluidity is so key. And that brings us to our last big area. This idea of shared exploration and fluidity in attraction itself.
This is the allure of the subculture. For many women, stepping into this world, the private wardrobes, the rituals of transformation, it feels like a secret adventure.
They become co-creators of something new together.
Right. And this taps into something really fundamental about how attraction often works differently for men and women.
How so?
Men are often pushed into a strict binary, right? Straight or gay. But women's attraction often exists on a much broader, more context-dependent spectrum.
And a cross-dressing partner kind of activates that spectrum.
Exactly. By blurring the gender line so intimately, he might activate parts of her sensual identity she'd never even looked at before.
She might discover she's attracted to aesthetics or to the confidence of his self-expression.
Or to that specific blend of androgyny and masculinity.
And crucially, it lets her explore all of that without needing to slap a label on it like queer or bi. It just feels natural. An attraction to a whole complex person.
So when you pull it all together, the picture becomes so beautifully clear. Women aren't drawn to cross-dressers because they're looking for less of a man.
They're looking for what's so often missing in those conventional, rigidly masculine partnerships.
Authenticity, vulnerability, Real courage.
Beauty, playfulness, emotional complexity, the attraction is really an endorsement of freedom.
And it is so symbiotic, we have to emphasize that. The man offers this incredible emotional depth and freedom from roles.
And in return, the woman offers acceptance and a safe place for him to be his whole self.
Yeah.
It's a trait of something incredibly rare and precious.
It truly is. It's about being drawn to complexity.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the beauty in the full human experience. So for you, the listener, we want to leave you with this final thought to mull over. If the core appeal here is the courage it takes for radical authenticity and self-acceptance, what small step could you take toward that same level of courage in your most important relationships?